Another thing I was fascinated with this particular piece was the shadows.
It's so rare to see a choreographer working in such divergent paths in choreography. And I'm wondering if you could tell us about your impulse to follow these really very different modes of inquiry. Yeah.
Well, it's just who I am. I can't answer it any other way. I have a diverse background in dance. It's called dance to me. It's all embodying of ballet and modern, and the definition is not interesting to me. It's called dance, and that's why my company's called Jessica Lang Dance.
Right.
Yeah. I have a lot of taste, and I tend to sway from one side to the other. If I'm doing something really classical, I want to work with Jakub. I want to go in extreme in contemporary music. Then I want to go back and find some sort of melody, a song of some sort. And I love to just try different things all the time. I want it to be recognizably mine, but I also don't want it to be the same.
Uh-huh. And recognizably yours, what does that mean for you?
Well, I think for me, back in 2005 was the first time I ever worked with inanimate objects within the movement, within the space, and how that changed and evolved my understanding of space and movement in general. I think one of my traits is interacting with things other than bodies, sculpting objects and sculpting the bodies around the objects and within. And I think that's something that is recognizably me, whether it's in pointe shoes or bare feet.
Yeah. So, Jakub, let's get you into the conversation too. I think a lot of people that I heard at intermission were asking about the instrument that you're playing, so maybe you could tell us about that.
Well, yes, I get that a lot, and I understand it might be at first a little bit confusing. What you saw are two theremins. It's a pretty old instrument, almost 100 years old, but the original theremin gives very simple sine wave tone. And I was never interested in the sound of theremin, so I used them in a very different way. So today you did not hear a theremin sound. I use them more as a sensor. So you have these two antennas, left, right, and then in the center. And this allows my computer software know where my hands are, and based on algorithms that I designed before, I can trigger different sounds. And every show, I change a little bit of which sounds are coming when, and tiny little variation. So that was the idea behind this today.
Does that present challenges for you that the music changes at each show?
I mean, I think there is a challenge, but there is a sort of foundation throughout that we can keep a beat, we can count for the most part, that he gets to layer on top. So again, challenge. I don't know. It's I mean, I think it's thrilling, and it keeps us all very present.
You're doing some choreography there too. I mean, to us, it looks like part of the dance, right? Did you take that into account as you were set? Yes. Yeah. So, can you tell us the way that worked into your ideas about the visuals of this work?
Yeah, Jakub and I have worked together several times, and we did one previous piece with his theremins, and I put him on stage and I lifted him up, and he was kind of like a god up there, and
I felt like one.
Yeah. But he always wanted to be a magician.
Yeah.
And he had the dancers underneath him, and it was interesting. And I didn't want to lift him for practical reasons and tourable reasons, and yet at the same time, he has a lot of wires on his computer, and it can become somewhat distracting. So I knew that I wanted him on stage, because if I had him over in the corner, you wouldn't know he was participating, or you might be too drawn to that side instead of looking at it, seeing him within the picture. I think that was really important. And the Molo, the set design, I have black ones, and I thought I just wanted to kind of include him, but I didn't want him necessarily in the same white world. So I had the black one in front, which then made him have a half body, and then there was that whole theme of half bodies, seeing the women's upper body just like him, and then obviously their feet, their legs.
So as long as we're on the visuals for this piece, that's an extraordinary set. Can you tell us about your collaboration?
Yeah, well, it's as simple as I have this piece that I did here last year called The Calling, and I have several pieces built around this large white skirt. And the background to it was that another presenter it was an artistic director, asked me to make another piece using this skirt, and I was so done with the skirt. I was like, I have so many more ideas, please let me try something else. And in that, please let me try something else, I went to my computer and used Google, and I thought, I want a wall, but I want it to be really an interesting wall. And I really think I just Googled interesting wall, and on the 23rd image page came this image of this wall, and I just kind of tagged it and put it in my bookmarks, and eventually the artistic director I didn't even get to propose my new idea, he bought the existing skirt piece instead of commissioning a new piece. So I just put it in my log of ideas, and then when I had a commission from Birmingham Royal Ballet, that was the first time I had the opportunity to pull out this idea, and I contacted Molo. That's the name of Molo Design. It's a design team, Stephanie Forsyth and Todd McAllen, and they are the creative minds behind Molo, which is an interior design company. You can buy them. You can buy them and put them in your home. You can divide your children's room in half. You can make an office space out of it. They're not meant for the stage. They're not theatrical. But I knew that there was potential to make them theatrical. And when I called them, and Stephanie and I had a nice long conversation, and we started the collaborative process. And this is the third work I've made with Molo. And I've always wanted to use the white, because I knew that the white had the potential to illuminate. And white was not flame-proofed. It wasn't fireproof for touring Europe. It was only flame-proof for the U.S. And so I thought, well, that's not a good, wise investment, especially if it's gorgeous and presenters want to, present this abroad. It's going to be awful to say, well, it can't, because it's going to catch fire. And so finally, Molo made a proper material that is completely flame-proof and now is able to tour the world, which this is actually the first prototype.
Let's talk about the last work in the program, i.n.k, because you also contributed to that work. So can you talk about what kind of conversations you had to get all those watery sounds?
I think the meeting point was that we both loved Shinichi's work, Shinichi Maruyama. I was even in his studio. I saw his graphics, and actually, that was a beginning of our collaboration. The first time we worked together was the piece for acoustic ensemble that later transformed into a third movement of what you saw today from i.n.k, the third movement, Kusho 3. So we made a piece, and Jessica told me, look, there's this Japanese artist, and there's this video of droplet of one droplet, slow motion, a few minutes, and she wanted to make a piece inspired by that. So that's how we started. And later, obviously, when we wanted to expand into a few different movements, I throw this idea that let's make it coherent with the visuals, and I recorded plenty of sounds in my studio back in Poland, and thought that I will try to make as much music made out of water as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the collaboration with the visual artist?
Sure. Shinichi and I came across each other by happenstance. We live in the same building, and my husband's Japanese, and we came across a conversation. Come to find out, he's this amazing photographer, and because his work is normally just in print, but how he captures it is through movement, through video, and I just saw Couchot, that's his print work series, and fell in love. And I didn't want to stalk him, so I was like, oh my God, he's going to think I don't know what he's going to think. I don't know if he's going to do anything with me, but I really want him to collaborate with me, but I'll invite him to come see a performance. So he did, and by the end of the night, we had received an email back from him saying, just thanking for the tickets, and would I ever be interested in collaborating with him? And so I was like, yes, this
Very
is great.
smart,
This is
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so he's a wonderful, wonderful artist. And he was actually on the collaborative team as well with the film White. So we used his camera. He was part of that whole process, the idea of playing with time and capturing, layering, real time, double time, slow motion together.
It seems like it must have been such an extraordinary feat of synchronization. Was it painstaking to do?
To do the White?
Yes.
It was like what I call like so much fun. I really wanted to try my hand. So the how Jessica Lange Dance came to be, because we're only 2 years old, I received a grant from the Mellon Foundation through the Joyce Theater. I was really nominated. The Joyce nominated me. I received the funding, and the whole point of the funding was go do something that you wouldn't normally do, and don't worry about showing it to anybody. What would you make if you had nothing? If you had no performance, what would you make? If you have no pressure, what would you make? And White was the first thing I made. I wanted to try my hand at something other than movement in a stage space. I wanted to try film. I had just recently met Shinichi. He had this beautiful studio. We went over to his studio literally like on a Saturday and a Sunday with my husband, who was on the film, who's a dancer, and we just said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, I want to work with a dancer. And he said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to slow one down, but I want to play with time. And that's when I didn't just want to do slow motion, that's been done, but I wanted to be able to create in a world where you weren't sure how it was done, and intermixing the slow body moving with the normal speed body, but having them have meaning in time and space to music.
Let's get you into the conversation. I'm going to repeat the question so that everybody can hear. The question is about Jessica's training.
Well, I think I have a background in ballet, and I have a background in like American dance, my jazz and tap local dancing school, and ballet. And I have an older sister who was a dancer, who went into the commercial field. She was in Cats and a Rockette for 10 years. Not that adds to any of this, but it does. But I don't have parents that were in dance at all, but my father's an artist. And I think my parents were just really dedicated at making sure we had a really well-rounded education, taking us to see, museums, to making us do all kinds of things to see what it was that we were going to connect with, maybe fall in love with, and hopefully have a career in. And that's exactly what happened. My parents are creative in various ways. My father is an artist. My mother is a nurse, but she's a mother, and she raised 2 kids creatively, I think. So we all have resources at our fingers to be creative, and I can't really say that I can pinpoint any one thing that gives me the visual ideas that I have. I just know that I trust my instincts, and I trust what I see, and I think the images that I get in my head are ones that I want to share. And I find that they're kind of universal and beautiful, and I want that to come out of my head into yours.